breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm and friendly hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Danny Vietti, who does such great work over at CBS Sports. We'll chat it up with him about what we're all seeing out there in the American League, the success that the Yankees have had without Aaron Judge. Typically, they toil up without him. That has not been the case thus far this season. What he attributes that to? A few teams out there that are sort of lurking, and just how top-heavy the National League is right now, with your main 3 teams being the Dodgers, Braves, and Brewers. Then in the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they me does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions, we had ourselves a great day of baseball on Tuesday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Kansas City Royals absolutely take it to the Tampa Bay Rays. They win this game by a count of 12-5 as Shane McClanahan was taken deep in the first inning. He gives up 6 runs in total over the course of 6 innings. Now, only 2 of which were earned, though. It was on his own throwing error, so there's that aspect of things as Nick Lofton took him deep. 3rd home run of the campaign, and then for Jack Caglione, pair of bombs, 13th and 14th home runs of the campaign. Steven Matz, the bullpen experiment for him has not been going well. 5 runs allowed over the course of 2 innings, and Ben Williamson, that's a position player, gives up a run in an inning. Luinder Avila, pretty solid here, 1 run allowed over the course of 5 innings. Steven Cruz, Matt Strom were both able to give you a scoreless inning. Beckway does give up a home run to Junior Caminero, 16th home run of the season, so home run given up in his inning work. Connor Siebel gave up 3 runs in his inning, but by then the damage had already been done. The Miami Marlins did some damage, 6-4. They take down the Walker Texas Rangers. Cal Quantrill was pretty much a pseudo-opener in this game. Gives up a solo home run over the course of 2 innings as Roberto Hernandez gets his 8th home run of the campaign. And then you have 5 runs given up by Jose Conil, who was pretty much your main bulk guy in this game. Over the course of 3 1/3 innings, he was taken deep by Joe Mack, his 4th home run of the campaign. And then he was also taken deep by Owen Casey, 9th home run of the season. Joe Ryan from there, 2 2/3 innings scoreless. And Sandy Alcantara, very nice start here. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 2/3 innings. Bullpen was shaky. Pete Fairbanks continues to be miserable this year. 2 runs allowed over the course of an inning, taken deep by Jock Peterson, 10th home run of the campaign. Brandon Nimmo, 8th home run of the season, goes deep off for Tyler Zuber, who gives up his home run in 2/3 of an inning of work by Lake Bacar, a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. And the Miami Marlins now 41-39, and they own the best record here in the month of June. A team that has been putting up a lot of wins, the New York Yankees, they get the job done against the Detroit Tigers. This by a count of 4-3 as Carlos Rodon gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 1/3 innings, and from there the bullpen did their part. Brent Hedrick, David Benar, they complete the final 3 innings scoreless between the 2 of them. Fernando Cruz, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, while Casey Mize, who's been very good this season, gives up 4 runs in 5 2/3 innings. Jazz Chisholm got jazzy for his 12th home run of the campaign. Tyler Holton, a scoreless inning. Emmanuel De Jesus, a scoreless inning. Kyle Finnegan, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. But Tigers, they are unable to get the job done there. A team that was able to get the job done, the Philadelphia Phillies, 14-9 the final. They put up 11 of those runs in the final 2 innings. As for the Nationals, Zach Littell was not awful as a bulk guy. Would have liked a little bit more length, but PJ Poulin, the opener, scoreless inning. Littell gives up 2 runs over the course of 4 innings as he was taken deep in this game. It was home run number 5 of the season for Armando Sosa, and then from there Brad Lord said, "Oh Lord," to a miserable time. Brandon Marsh, his 11th home run of the season off of him. Bryson Stott, his 7th as Brad Lord, 6 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. Prior to that, Mitchell Parker, 1 1/3 innings, allows a run. Orlando Robalto, scoreless inning. Richard Dickey Lovelady, though, gives up 3 runs in 1/3 of an inning. Clayton Beater not out of the bullpen scoreless. Paxton Schultz, he gives up 2 runs in 1/3 of an inning, and Nationals at one point led in this game by a count of 5-0 as they jumped all aboard Jesus Luzardo. 13 strikeouts in 6 2/3 innings, but he gave up 5 runs along the way. Jonathan Bullen from there and out of the bullpen scoreless. Orion Kirkring, he gives up 3 runs in an inning as he was taken deep, and Chase Sugar, he gave up a solo run in his inning of work as Luis Garcia, 12th home run of the season off of Shogurt and Jobert Vivas. Second home run of the season, that came off a Kirk ring. For the Houston Astros, they get a nice 9-7 win in extra innings over the Toronto Blue Jays. As for the Blue Jays, they, for the second straight game, stranded 13 men on base. As for the Blue Jays, Shane Bieber, he had a fever for giving up bombs. He was taken deep 3 times in this game, 4 runs allowed over the course of 3 2/3 innings. Taylor Trammell, first home run of the campaign. Yanier Diaz, his third, and then Cam Smith, his 8th home run of the season. From there, the bullpen was good until extra innings. Tommy Nance, 4 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Mason Flaherty, a squirrel setting. Spencer Miles, Jeff Hoffman combined for 2 shutout innings. And then you had Tyler Rogers in the extra frames, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, given up in his inning work, and then Braden Fisher, 3 runs, 2 of which were earned. He completed 2 innings, gave the ball up in the 11th inning as he was taken deep by Joey Looper Fighter. First home run of the campaign for Peter Lambert. He was taken deep in this game as well, as it was Mr. Ramon Urias, his first home run of the campaign. 2 runs allowed over the course of 4 2/3 innings. From there, Stephen O. Curtis, squirrel setting. Anya de los Santos, 2 runs allowed in 1 1/3 innings. Dalton Varsho, 7th home run of the season. Nate Pearson from there, 2 unearned runs given up in his inning of work, but that was on his own throwing error. That needs to be added. From there, Josh Hader, squirrel setting, and then Logan Van Way in the 10th and 11th innings. He has to come in super long relief, 1 unearned run to be able to get that one into the window for the Milwaukee Brewers. They hold down the Cincinnati Reds once again, 2-0. They get the win. As for Brandon Sproat, 10 punch-outs, 1 hit allowed in 6 shutout innings. Don't think a lot of people saw that coming. From there, Aaron Ashby, Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, Olenda squirrel setting, and Nick Lodolo on the low. Not a lot of length, but not bad here. 4 shutout innings. From there, 1 run allowed in 1 2/3 innings by Julian Garcia, I believe his MLB debut. Caleb Ferguson, Pierce Johnson, both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Chase Petty, he was feeling petty about the fact that he gave up a run in his 2 innings of work, but nothing doing here for the Cincinnati Reds. 2 total hits for them in this game. The Seattle Mariners, not a ton doing at the plate, but enough to get the job done against the Pittsburgh Pirates. This by a count of 3-2, as for the Pirates, Mitch Keller does give up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings. He was taken deep by Cal Raleigh. For Raleigh, his 8th home run of the season, and then Colton Young, his 7th home run of the campaign. From there, Mason Montgomery, Isaac Manson, Dennis Santana, all on his squirrel setting, and George Kirby. 2 runs, 1 of which was earned over the course of 6 innings. Jose Ferrer, Edward Bazardo, Andres Munoz. From there, all able to complete squirrel settings as the Pirates. They stranded 9 men on base, and that ended up being the death of them. The Chicago White Sox, they win a low-scoring game 2-1 over the Cleveland Guardians. For the Guardians, you had Parker Messick give up 2 runs in 7 2/3 innings, was taken deep by Miguel Vargas, 17th home run season. From there, Colin Olderman, he lived up to his name, got out of the bullpen squirrels, but Sean Burke, really nice start here, 6 1/3 innings, allows a solo home run to Khalil Watson, first home run of the season. From there, Sean Newcomb, 2 2/3 innings of long relief squirrels to be able to land the save, being able to land a win. The Arizona Diamondbacks, 4-3, they take down the St. Louis Cardinals as Eduardo Rodriguez continues to be really good for this Diamondbacks team. 6 2/3 innings scoreless. From there, Juan Murillo, and out of the bullpen scoreless, Kevin Ginkel scoreless, saying Paul Sewald tried to make a mess out of things. There's a reason why I don't trust him. 3 runs allowed in the 9th inning. In 2/3 of an inning, Braden Garcia has to come in, get the final out of the game. And for the Diamondbacks, they only go 2 of 13 with men in scoring position, but it was enough on this day as Kyle Leahy, 6 1/3 innings scoreless. And then from there, you were able to have 1 2/3 innings scoreless out of Maxwell Rakosic. Hopefully I got that last name correct. And Matt Savanson, you want to talk about making a mess out of things in the 9th inning. This game was 0-0 going into the 9th inning. 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in a third of an inning. Gordon Gassefo from there got a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but by then the damage had been done, and lots of damage was done by Kodai Senga. The Cubs get a 9-6 win in this one as Kodai Senga continues to be absolutely terrible. He lends 3 2/3 innings in this one, giving up 7 runs, all of which were earned, including a pair of bombs. Going deep for the Cubs, you were able to have Dansby Swanson go deep, home run number 9 of the campaign. From there, Picro Armstrong, his 17th, and he is on a tear, by the way. You would have Tobias Myers give up 2 runs in 2 innings, Cionel Perez, 2 1/3 innings scoreless. AJ Minter was able to lend a scoreless inning, and for the Cubs, Edward Cabrera gives up 2 runs over the course of his 5 innings. Hobie Milner, Ryan Rolson both give you a scoreless inning. Phil Matone gives up a sole run in his inning work, and a newly acquired Jaden Murray, and this was not great. He does give up 3 runs in his inning work, and he was taken deep as it was home run number 9 of the campaign for Bo Bichette. And a little bit earlier on against Phil Matone, you did have Francisco Alvarez get his 6th home run of the campaign, but still the Cubs, they are able to get the job done there. The LA Dodgers, they do get the job done as well. I do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, currently leading by kind of 7-2, so the over does cash there. Don't know who went in the 9th inning for the Dodgers, but Edgar Enriquez is scoreless inning. Justin Robelski, Vietti only gives up 2 runs over the course of 7 innings. He was taken deep by Victor Carantini, 6th home run of the campaign, and Austin Voth, this ball guy. Man, this was not great. Joe Ryan was supposed to start this game, had a little bit of a rain delay, and I think that he's dealing with a little bit of ailment, what have you, but Kendry Rojas as the opener, 1 run allowed in 2 innings. Austin Voth, 6 runs, 5 of which were earned. Give it up in 4 innings. You had Travis Adams from there, give you 2 shutout innings, and then Taylor Rogers was able to give you a respectable 9th inning, but by then, the damage had been done. Looks like the Red Sox should be able to get there against the Colorado Rockies, currently doing this with them up by a count of 5-1 in the 8th inning for the Red Sox. Sonny Gray, he led 7 innings, 11 punchouts, gives up 1 run along the way. He was taken deep by Willie Castro, 6th home run of the campaign, and Sean Sullivan, a more respectable start here. 3 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, but he was taken deep by one Mr. Weiler Abreu. Wiles out for his 10th home run of the campaign. From there, Zach Ognos was able to lend a pair of innings out of the bullpen, and we'll see what happens with regards to these late games. I did have a little bit of a date night to go on Tuesday, so you're getting this a little bit earlier. We do know that we got the over in the Atlanta Braves versus Padres game. I'm doing this in the 3rd inning. It's 5-4. Padres are in the lead as J.R. Ritchie just getting absolutely mollywopped in this one, giving up 5 runs, 4 of which were earned in his 2 innings of work thus far, so that's not great. And for the San Diego Padres, Wandy Peralta was the opener, gave you a scoreless inning, and Griffin Canning was supposed to be the bulk guy. He gave up 4 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Right now, Kyle Hart is trying to hold down the fort, and they're doing this all, by the way, with 0 home runs on the board, so there's that. Right now, the Giants are leading by a count of 2-1, so we'll see what happens in that game. And currently, you've got the Angels up 2-0 on the Baltimore Orioles, but with an Angels bullpen, we know that you can expect anything whatsoever in that sort of a game. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, this is with a few games pending on the Tuesday card, but overall for the season, favorites are hitting in the neighborhood about 55.5%, 636 and 509 on the money line. Meanwhile, among those 636 favorites, 151 have failed to cover the run line. The overrate in Major League Baseball, 50.6%, 580 overs, 566 unders, and if math serves me correct, we have had a grand total of 30 pushes thus far this season, and over the last 7 days in Major League Baseball, favorites, again, few games pending still for Tuesday, hitting out only about 53.5%, 46 and 40 on the money line. Meanwhile, the over rate, just 44.7%, 38 overs, 47 unders, and a push along the way. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're getting trend-wise. Coming next, let's chat it up with our good friend Danny Vietti. He does such a great work over at CBS Sports and the Weekend Rake podcast right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as we've got Danny Vietti aboard. He does such a great job with his work over at CBS Sports, and additionally, he does a great job with his own podcast, the Wake and Rake podcast. He and Will Middlebrooks, World Series champion, more importantly, former Milwaukee Brewer, do a great job week in and week out taking a look at this great sport of baseball. For Danny, it's easy enough to be able to follow him on Twitter/X at his first and last name, Danny Vietti. That's Vietti on the last name. And Danny, always appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime, my man. Appreciate you having me on.
Always appreciate you, my friend. And typically it feels like we always lead off with the Milwaukee Brewers, so we'll go in a different direction this time because we are about 75 games into the season, and I do feel like even without Aaron Judge, the Yankees have very much shown that they're the best team in the American League. I feel like the LA Angels are completely hopeless at this point. And that's about all I know about the American League. I want to get your thoughts on this league as a whole because it just feels like a big giant hodgepodge right now. Other than the Yankees, no team has really stepped up. Other than the Angels, no team really looks hopeless. And it's about as wide open of a league as I've ever seen this late into the season.
Yeah, when Judge went down, I made the bold proclamation or bold claim that this could actually be a good exercise for this roster. Because time and time again, we see the Yankees when they get to the postseason, and it feels like it just falls way too much on Aaron Judge's shoulders. And Giancarlo Stanton in years past has just been a playoff menace. It seems to click on all cylinders come postseason time. So Judge and Giancarlo seem to kind of hold their end up of the bargain, although Judge, his playoff numbers aren't great. But postseason time, you need your complementary players to really have career years when time matters most. And so without Judge in the lineup, it's allowed opportunities for guys like Spencer Jones to be getting everyday at-bats. You are forced to use your depth. And Ahmed Rosario is getting more ABs. Ryan McMahon's getting more ABs. Paul Goldschmidt's now finding himself a hot bat. Jason Dominguez getting everyday at bats. We knew Ben Rice, his capabilities before the Judge injury, but now Ben Rice is becoming an MVP candidate in and of himself. And you put that together with the fact that Garrett Cole is now healthy, Carlos Rodon is now healthy, Cam Schlittler is probably the leader for the American League Cy Young Award. And you put that together with a bullpen that has the 5th best ERA in Major League Baseball. They have a very good recipe right now in New York. I think come trade deadline time, I think they would love to add a bat for the hot corner and would love to add some bullpen help. But they're only going to get better, guaranteed, because Aaron Judge will be coming back at some point later this year.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that with the New York Yankees, they're just so much better set up to be able to handle the Aaron Judge injury. I don't know if you agree/disagree, but Paul Goldschmidt has been able to step up. You mentioned Ben Rice. He is not quite Aaron Judge, but he's putting up some of the better numbers out there in the American League. And it just feels like there's a little bit more depth with this team than there has been in the past.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think what was really overlooked over the last season and a half, really, is what Brian Cashman did at the deadline a year ago with bringing in Jose Caballero, bringing in Ryan McMahon, having bullpen adds and David Bednar and Camilo Doval. Those are minor moves, and Yankee fans are always looking for the big blockbuster. But this team, they have big names. They have your Judge, your Garrett Coles, your Cody Bellingers. They needed complementary players. They needed players that are able to move a runner over with less than 2 outs. They needed bullpen arms as a bridge guy in the 6th inning. And Brian Cashman didn't get the consideration and applause he probably should have last offseason because he got B-level names. And the Yankees have built this standard for themselves that they have to get A-plus names or else it's a failure. But I thought Brian Cashman this last year, including the offseason and last year's trade deadline, it arguably was his best year as being head of this team's front office.
Absolutely. And I will say, even though he is a major name, the Cody Bellinger signing, that is very much working out well for this team. Certainly. As well as we've got Danny Vietti. He does such great work over at CBS Sports and the Wake and Rake podcast, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I think that's very clear. Yankees are the top team in the American League. Is there maybe one or two other teams that you're right now looking at and you just, at the very minimum, feel relatively okay about? Because I just look at this entire American League, and as I alluded to, it feels like there's really not a lot of teams that are truly out of it, but who's going to be able to step up and be the biggest challenger to the Yankees, I think, is a massive question mark.
Each team in the American League, besides the Yankees, has a very massive void in some department. Chicago's lacking star power. Seattle is lacking offensive consistency. Tampa is lacking power and really depth offensively. They're scrappy, but just missing some star power as well. Cleveland, very similarly. Toronto is missing health, really. The A's are missing starting pitching. The Texas Rangers are missing offensive consistency. Each of these teams have serious weaknesses. And when I say it's a void, it's not like, oh, hey, they can call somebody up from the minor leagues and they can patch this thing up. No, each of these American League teams have serious weaknesses, weaknesses to the point where there are the Yankees, and then there's a gap, and then there's the rest of the American League, at least the way I see it. I think really the trade deadline is going to be massive. I mean, it could literally dictate the entire American League this season just because each of these teams has a massive void. I think Cleveland, when they get Jose Ramirez back into this lineup, assuming he's healthy and 100%, I think Cleveland, at least on paper right now, probably has the best shot to beat the Yankees come postseason time. Obviously, we have no idea which team's going to get hot. But Travis Bazan, after having a slow start to his career, is really coming along. You get Jose Ramirez back in that lineup. Brian Rocchio has had a career year so far. It's the starting rotation that I think gives Cleveland an advantage over the rest of the teams because I think Tampa has really strong pitching, and they've been good so far, but offensively, it's just they're a very scrappy, fun bunch. I just don't think it's enough. Toronto, if they can get healthy, certainly could be capable of toppling the Yankees. He's just missing too much. The Seattle Mariners, if they can get hot at the right time. I think Cleveland amongst this bunch, and I didn't even mention Chicago. They've been a great story until I see it in the postseason. I don't believe it. I think Cleveland, especially considering the history against New York in the postseason, their history of having and adding pitching throughout a season, I would give the advantage to Cleveland if Jose Ramirez is healthy.
Yep, and with the Cleveland Guardians, they should be getting a lot of those guys back because it's not just Jose Ramirez, it's also Chase Salad or it's Anel Martinez. So if they could get those guys back, certainly they look formidable. And right now, the offense, they are very, very much missing Jose Ramirez. So going to be interesting to take a look on that front as we've got Danny Vietti, who does such great work over at CBS Sports, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I think that things are interesting out there in the National League as well because I think that there's a clear divide between the haves and the have-nots. The LA Dodgers, the Atlanta Braves, the Milwaukee Brewers, they look like they're going to be your top teams. They're running and hiding right now with their divisions, but I want to get your thoughts on the wild card picture because for the Phillies, they've been a volatile team, but it feels like they've been able to find their way under Donnie Baseball. Certainly want to be checking in on the Kyle Schwarber scratch that we saw on Tuesday, but overall, they've been able to do a solid job. But outside that, it feels like these teams like the Pirates, the Cubs, a lot of these teams out there in the National League have just been a little bit all over the place, while the St. Louis Cardinals have surprisingly been very consistent this year. But as we know, they're a very young team, and I still feel like I need to see a little bit more out of them to truly believe it.
No, these three teams at the top, Dodgers, Braves, and Brewers, it's going to be an absolute war at the deadline because these teams are missing similar. I say missing. The Dodgers really aren't missing anything at all as long as they're healthy. But the Braves could certainly use a starter and they could certainly use a shortstop. The Milwaukee Brewers aren't necessarily missing a starter, but they could use a bullpen arm, perhaps an Aroldis Chapman, perhaps a Pete Fairbanks, and perhaps a starter if they want to go out and make some noise. The Dodgers, they could probably use a little bit of infield depth, if anything at all. Really just depth to their offensive lineup, just considering the injuries that this older roster has gone through the last couple of years. But in general, just this trade deadline is going to have a massive impact on these three teams because they're already an embarrassment of riches. These three teams already are an embarrassment of riches in their own ways. The Brewers have one of the better pitching staffs in baseball. The Dodgers have one of the best 40-man rosters in baseball. The Braves are probably the best offensive lineup in baseball. Who is going to make the big deal at the deadline? Because it's not going to be, okay, hey, we're good with where we're at. It's going to be, okay, we have got to keep pace with the Dodgers. We've got to keep pace with Milwaukee. And it might not be acquiring a player to necessarily make this team better. It could be acquiring a player so that the Dodgers don't acquire him in the meantime.
Yep, and as we know, the Dodgers, they are not shy about spending. They always make big moves at the trade deadline as well, so it's going to be interesting to look at. And how do you gauge the Brewers with regards to that as well? Because there are rumors out there of them perhaps going out there and getting Tariq Skubal. I can tell you as a Brewers fan, I will see it when I believe it, but they're always a team that they don't make necessarily a lot of splash moves. We saw it this offseason, but they just seem to always find diamonds in the rough, and I think that they're just such an intriguing team because no doubt they're going to be buyers at the trade deadline, but they're always that team that picks out that guy where it's like, that's not going to be a big acquisition, like Andrew Vaughn, for example, last year, where they just shipped off Aaron Savali and it winds up making a big deal long term.
I personally am not looking at Skubal, although if that's the way they want to go, fantastic. I think the Brewers, that's really what's been missing over the last handful of years from them being able to get over the hump. I think it's really been a lack of star power because postseason time, yes, you need your complementary players. That is the difference. But you also need some star power to really give you a real opportunity come postseason. Obviously, CC Sabathia is the one that comes to mind. So Milwaukee's done this kind of thing before where you bring over a dominant left-handed starter and it can really help solidify you as a title contender. That being said, you look at Milwaukee's prospect, they got 5 in the top 100. So they could certainly make a package to acquire a Tariq Skubal, but we've seen in years past the Brewers be reluctant to do so. These small market teams like Milwaukee, they don't like to give up their big prospects because they don't like spending a lot of money in the offseason. And so it's a replenishing of rosters because they're going to have to let some of these guys go in free agency eventually. But as I mentioned, 5 top 100 prospects, you could certainly make a deal and entice some teams. If it's Tariq Skubal, great. I personally think Sonny Gray, perhaps Joe Ryan would be another great name to watch. I don't know if it's going to be Skubal, but there are other starting pitchers out there that could fit this Brewers roster. And I think Joe Ryan, while not the big name that Tariq Skubal is, kind of feels like a perfect fit to me.
And he's already out there in the Midwest. Trust me, as a Brewers fan, I would love to have Joe Ryan on the roster, and that would have me very much gassed up. And I want to close it out with this, because we've talked a lot about the top teams out there in the National League. It's a big three of the Braves, it's the Brewers, and it's the LA Dodgers. In the American League, it's the Yankees, and everyone is trying to track them down. Is there a team or two outside those main four that you're right now looking at and you feel like there's a little bit of upside and they might have a little bit of a surge in them? Because right now it feels like it's those four teams and everyone else, but is there maybe a team that's lurking out there that could be able to improve as the season goes along?
Philly is the ultimate, could go one way or the other for me, because this Philadelphia roster, you look at the ages of this team. I said it last year, and maybe I was a year too soon, but maybe this is the final swan song for this roster. Bryce Harper is going to turn 34 later this year. Kyle Schwarber's 33. Trey Turner's 33. Look at the starting rotation. Zach Wheeler's 36. Went through a pretty significant injury in recent years. Christopher Sanchez is going to turn 30. He's still relatively young. Aaron Nola, 33. A lot of innings on his arm. This roster, it feels like with this core, Schwarber, Harper, Turner, Baum, Real Muto, 35. It feels like this is perhaps the last opportunity for this team to really go on a title run. We've seen older rosters before, been able to get into the postseason, but just don't quite have the sustainability to get through a postseason due to the age. I think Philadelphia, especially with Dave Dombrowski's history of leaving it all out there and not afraid to make a big blockbuster move, I think Philadelphia could really turn the tides, be uber aggressive, put all of their prospects on the table, knowing that this could be the last big ride for this core of players. So Philadelphia has been playing really, really well since Don Mattingly took over for this team. You have momentum on your side. They are in playoffs if the season ended today. Although trailing the Braves significantly in that division, all they got to do is get into the dance and get hot at the right time. I think Dave Dombrowski is going to put this thing on the gas pedal and leave everything out on the table.
You mentioned them being willing to trade away a lot of those prospects. We've seen the Phillies not have a lot of luck with a lot of those prospects, so I think that might incline them even more to go for it this year. And we always try to go for it on this podcast with great guests. And Danny, you always fit the bill, my friend. You do such a great job over at CBS Sports, the Wake and Rake podcast, and so much more. So let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Appreciate you having me on, Greg. We break down in detail the top 25 trade candidates on the next Wake and Rake podcast episode. So at Wake and Rake Pod, Wake and Rake podcast on your favorite podcast listening platforms.
Absolutely. And Danny is doing such a great job there. And every single time he joins me, learns such great insight. So a big thanks to Danny for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. Now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Danny Vietti. He does such great work over at CBS Sports and his own podcast, Awake and Rank Podcast. You're able to find that where you find good podcasts. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So a big thanks to Danny for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_D1. We're going to be going in last exhortation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games in time order. Any interleague games, those will be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. The lone exception is going to be that Cubs versus Mets doubleheader, mainly because we don't know either team is going to be starting for either game, so I'm just going to do that all together. We know the two pitchers that will be throwing. We just don't know what game they're going to be throwing in, so I'll just do that together. Let's get things started. This is 901, 902 on the card. The Phillies are going to be on the road against the Washington Nationals. Miles Mikolas is on the bump for the Nationals. Aaron Nola hopes to be super for the Phillies. Phillies between minus 131 to minus 136 favorites, plus 109 to plus 118 as that number on Washington. 9.5 is the total over and under, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and I do like the over, so I total 9.6. Aaron Nola has just struggled this year. He's given up 1.8 home runs, 3 walks per 9 innings. He's still getting right around about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's given up 1.8 bombs per 9, 5.71 ERA, and the Miles Mikolas 1.9 home runs, allowed per 9 innings, 5.2 strikeouts per 9. Now, you could see someone like a Clayton Beeter starting this game. They like to throw openers for Miles Mikolas. So if you see someone coming out of the bullpen, Richard Dickey, Lovelady, something like that, it's still going to be Miles Mikolas as a bulk guy, but I still do think that the Nationals are going to be able to get the job done because they're averaging 5.4 runs per game. That is number one in all baseball. James Wood has been able to give you good wood, over a 400 on base. He's been able to supply this team with 20 plus home runs. Now you've been able to get 17 home runs out of CJ Abrams, who has been doing a good job getting on base. Did see him out of the lineup yesterday, so something that you do want to be taking note of, but even if you do have him out, someone like Nasim Nunez is moving the line a little bit more. Curtis Mead at 330 on base. He's been able to give you double-figure amount of homers. Jober Vivas is getting on base as well. And then on the other end for the Phillies, this has been a bottom 6 team in terms of run creation away from home, but you do have a pair of guys in Bryce Harper along with Kyle Schwarber, and Schwarber got a day off yesterday, so again, something that you want to note. They've been producing for Harper 15 plus home runs, 370 on base. For Schwarber, he's on pace for quite literally 60 home runs this season, and everyone outside those guys have been relatively rough. J.T. Mito, Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, Trey Turner, all in at 235 or lower with not a lot of power. Adolis Garcia has been a big giant mess, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, while you've got Orion Kirkering along with Yohan Duran, both give you a sub-3 ERA in the bullpen. The likes of a Tanner Banks, Jose Alvarado have been rough, and for the Nationals, they too are a bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA, so not been great there. You have had these guys like PJ Poole, the opener from yesterday, Clayton Beeter, Richard Dickey, Lovelady, be able to give you a sub-350 ERA, but Paxton Schultz, Mitchell Parker, a lot of guys have been all sorts of rough. So interesting circumstance here. Do think they get quite a bit of scoring, even with both teams dealing with some of their top guys out yesterday. I do like the over sub, my total 9.6, and I'm in on the Nationals at a plus 115 or better on the money line. This one is messy. 903, 904 will be in conjecture with 931, 932. It is going to be the Cubs against the Mets, and we do know that Javier Assad and Shota Imanaga will be pitching the 2 games for the Cubs. We know that Sean Manaea and Noah McLean go for the Mets. We just don't know what order, and in my opinion, between Javier Assad and Shota Imanaga, there's not going to be a ton of difference. Like in Assad versus Sean Manaea, I made Sean Manaea and the Mets a minus 132 in that total, an 8.5 or less to the over, a 9 or higher to the under. I think with Imanaga, I'd probably set that more around a minus 125, but I'd still be leaning 8.5 or less to the over, 9 or higher to the under. And then in Nolan McLean versus Shota Imanaga, which I projected already, I said McLean at a minus 152, probably closer to like a minus 155, minus 160 if it's Javier Assad, but whether it's Imanaga or Assad, a 8 or less looking at the over, 8.5 or higher to the under. And when it comes to Manaea, we'll get to him first. I do think that there's actually a little bit of positivity to him for his ERA. Now, for Manaea, he's not a guy that I necessarily have a lot of faith in, but I do feel like he's pitched a little bit better than that 4.64 ERA would indicate. Right now, the fielding depends at 3.74, 1 home run allowed per 9 innings. He's getting over 9.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. And for Nolan McLean, I do think that it's very important to note that he has been able to get a lot of swing and miss as well. 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 0.9 home runs per 9, 3.67 ERA, 3.50 fielding dependent. The difference between McLean and Manaea is much bigger than Assad versus Shota Imanaga, mainly because for Shota Imanaga, he's a little bit of a bigger swing and miss guy than Javier Assad, but Assad is doing actually a pretty solid job in terms of inducing some soft contact. For Assad, a 3.89 ERA, the fielding dependent has been right in that neighborhood as well, right around about a 4.42, 1.2 home runs, 1.8 walks per 9 innings, but 5.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's pitching to a lot of contact. Imanaga is getting a few more strikeouts within that neighborhood, about 8.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but the 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, 4.26 ERA, 4.58 fielding dependent. So Imanaga and Assad are relative equals here. So that's what you want to be looking for, in my opinion. And when it comes to this lineup of the New York Mets, it has been rough this season, bottom 8 in terms of total run creation. And one guy in the starting lineup yesterday with a double-figure amount of homers is Juan Soto. He's done his part, nearly 400 on base, 17 home runs. And then Carson Benjay, Bo Bichette, Marcus Semien, all between 8 and 9 home runs. But Simeon's less than a 275 on base. Benjay's been able to about a 255, had that 5-hit game about 2 weeks ago against the Padres. And then for Bo Bichette, he's starting to hit a little bit more. AJ Ewan has given you about a 330 on base, and Francisco Alvarez should be able to help out the catcher spot, but man, just haven't been able to get a ton here. And for the Cubs, Pico Armstrong over the last 30 days has actually been pretty darn amazing. Ever since he told off that fan, all of a sudden he's been able to go into inferno mode. You look at the last 30 days going into yesterday, hitting a 392 with 10 home runs, so he's been doing something right there. And then you do have Mr. Ian Apple, who's at Annapolis, 16 home runs. Batting average is just a 228, but the on-base percentage more around about a 340. You've got Seiya Suzuki with 350 on base, Michael Busch 370 on base, but with Alex Bregman and Ian Happ, they do lead the league, these two guys do, in terms of men left on base, and we've seen Nico Horner go down the toilet bowl a little bit. So again, what you want to be looking for is who Assad and Imanaga are going to be facing, because again, with Assad and Imanaga, the difference between them is only about 5 or so cents. Like in Assad versus Manaea, I set the Mets at a minus 132, so I would be willing to lay up to minus 131 there. If it would be Shota Imanaga, would probably be willing to lay more like a minus 125 with the Mets, and then whether it's Assad or Imanaga going against Manaea, 8.5 or less looking at the over, 9 or higher to the under. And then for the Noah McLean start, 8 or less looking at the over, 8.5 or higher to the under, whether it is Imanaga or Assad. And with Shota Imanaga, would need at least plus 153 if he faces off against Noah McLean, more like a plus 155 to a plus 160 if it is Javier Assad. Did my best to keep it straight there because they didn't do us a lot of favors there, so hopefully I was able to do my best there. 905, 906 on the card. It's the Brewers. They're going to be on the road against the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati's on to Rhett Lauder getting the start for them, and Shane Drone goes for the Brewers. The Brewers are between minus 140 to minus 148 favorites, between plus 118 to a plus 126 is that number on the Reds. 9 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. I do like the over. I set my total at an 8.1. I've liked what I've seen out of Shane Drone this far this season. I still do have a little bit of question marks with him in terms of just a day in and a day out basis, mainly because he's been mostly throwing out the bullpen, so he's still getting acclimated to being a starter, but still 0.8 home runs, 2.6 walks per 9 innings, a 3.40 ERA, 3.16 field independent, so he certainly has been able to get the job done. At one rough start against the Philadelphia Phillies, but overall he has been solid. And for Rhett Lauder, he just doesn't get a lot of swing and miss. Now he does a nice job in terms of reducing soft contact, 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but 7.2 strikeouts, right around about 4.8 walks per 9 innings. He's got an ERA of a 4.82, more like a 4.46 field independent. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, they're not necessarily a team that's going to go out there and give you a whole bunch of boom. In terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, this team is in the bottom 6 in all baseball. Jake Bauers actually leading the way. He's been able to give you right around about 13 to 14 home runs thus far this season, give you about a 360 to a 370 on base. But then William Contreras is hitting darn near 300. Jackson Chourio, 10 home runs in his first 180 at-bats. He's been hitting at 295. Andrew Vaughn has been incredible in terms of getting on base. Just has been a little bit limited due to injury. Now, Troy Ortiz, Blake Perkins, towards bottom lineup are not giving you too much, but love the way that the Brewers are playing small ball. And for the Reds, Ellie De La Cruz is back. Now you've got JJ Bleday, cousin Sal Stewart, all give you between 12 and 14 home runs this season. Obviously with De La Cruz, he's able to give you a few more stolen bases. Bleday and Sal Stewart both been able to give you over a 335 on base. Nathaniel Lowe, functional power, 9 home runs at about 169 at bats. He's been able to give you over a 330 on base. And Eugenio Suarez continues to stink it up. And then you do have some of these guys like Novalio Marte and company at the bottom of the fold that haven't been able to do too much, but do think that the Reds see a little bit of an upswing with regards to their offense. Now, with the Reds, what you do have to have a lot of trepidation with, this bullpen has been absolutely terrible. Since May 1st, they're a bottom 3 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, but Sam Moe, Brock, and Rollberger, but they've been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Caleb Ferguson, since coming off the injury, sub 2 ERA. TJ Antone starting to give you a little bit of something, so they seem to be turning a corner there. Meanwhile, for Trevor McGill, he had a shaky start to the season along with Ebner Uribe. Both of these guys still north of a 325 ERA, but they're rounding into form, and then you've had quite a few mix and match guys be able to step up. The alternate up. Hall has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA thus far this season. They called him up from the minor league level. He's been a little bit up and down this season, but Brian Fitzpatrick has been able to lend some good innings as well. I like what I've been seeing out of him. Jake Woodford has not been great as a long guy, but past that, you've had a lot of good reliability. Chad Patrick has been able to do a solid job in this bullpen, so it is an interesting circumstance. I could only set the Brewers at a minus 129 favorite because I don't think that you're going to be seeing a ton of length out of Shane Drone. So if we could get to a plus 130 on the Reds, which I do think that we're going to when it's all said and done, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the money line, as I do think that you get a higher scoring game, and I'm going to be in on that total to the over as well. 907, 908 on the card. It's the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're going to be on the road facing off against the St. Louis Cardinals. It is Matthew Liberatore who's going to be getting the start for St. Louis. It is currently listed as hold to be determined on the bump for the Arizona Diamondbacks. That is why this game is off the board. Right now it is Mitch Bratt who is projected to be the starter for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I know that they've been talking about Cole Drake as well, and if you get Cole Drake on the mound, holy crud, he is going to be a fade. Right now, that opening number, by the way, is a minus 120 on the St. Louis Cardinals, plus 102 on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Total is 9, the over is minus 112, and the under is minus 108. And whether you get Mitch Bratt on the mound or if you get Cole, I am going to be on the St. Louis Cardinals on the money line. As for Bratt, if you do get him as a starter, he's actually been functional. He hasn't necessarily given you the world's most amount of length, the 11 starts, 44 and a third innings. But I mean, at the very least, he's a guy that is able to go out there and give you something relatively solid. I said Brett at a plus 137, and if you get Cole Drake, I mean, man, that guy, he is going to be north of a plus 150 because he has been absolutely terrible at the minor league level. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they're just running out of arms right now. That bullpen has still been relatively reliable, so if you do have a lot of bullpen usage, it's not necessarily the world's worst thing. These guys like Ryan Thompson, Jonathan Leisga, Juan Rio, Taylor Clark, they'll give you a sub 350 ERA, and they're about a league average team in terms of bullpen ERA. I don't necessarily trust in Paul Sewald when they've thrown out their Brandon Pfaadt as a long guy. That's not necessarily been great, but all in all, these guys have been able to do a relatively okay job. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, you've got Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte along Corbin Carroll, who've been able to give you 11 plus home runs this season. It's not necessarily quite the offense that we've seen in the past, but still, with Carroll, he's still been able to give you a non-base percentage right around about a 370. You've had Geraldo Perdomo, Gabriel Moreno, both give you over a 340 on base. You need a little bit more at the bottom of the fold. Lourdes Gurriel's not been himself. He, Pavin Smith, Lou James, Grover, these are guys that are hitting below a 215 and not giving you necessarily a ton of power. And for the Cardinals, they actually do have some pretty dramatic home and road splits right now. For this Cardinals team, they have been absolutely incredible in terms of run creation away from home, third in the big leagues, 5.3 runs per game, just a hair below 4 runs per game entering into the series. But Jordan Walker, 18 home runs, he's been able to hit nearly a 290 for this team. Ivan Herrera's been able to give you darn near 4 on base, AJ Weatherholt, Alec Burleson, Nelson Velasquez, these guys have been able to give you over a 350 on base, and Blaze Jordan has been able to give you a little bit of something as well. It is a Cardinals team that does rank in the bottom 12 of the big leagues in terms of opening area. We have seen Jojo Romero, Riley O'Brien, see their ERAs go above a 340, and Ryan Stanek, Justin Burrell, these guys have just not been great, to say the least. But Gordon Gassefo, George Soriano, these have been guys that have been pretty rock solid for the team. They've been able to give you a sub 325 ERA, and for Matthew Liberatore, it has been a rough season. So if we can get that 9, I am certainly going to be in on the over here, because for Liberatore, he has never really been too much of a swing and miss guy. Now the command has been all over the place this season as well. For Liberatore, 8.3 strikeouts, 3.4 walks per 9 innings, 5.23 ERA, 5.06 fielding dependent with 1.9 home runs per 9 innings. So like that 9 to the over, set my total 9.2, and assuming we get Mitch Brett on the mound, I'm going to be in on the Cardinals money line, set them at a minus 137. 909, 910 on the card. The Braves are going to be on the road against East Lamb. Diego Padres says out. Andy Vasquez is on the bump for the Pods, and it looks like it's going to be now JP Sears going for the San Diego Padres. And right now with the Atlanta Braves, you're going to be finding them between minus 130 to a minus 132, plus 105 to a plus 112 is this number on the San Diego Padres total 7.5. The over and the under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. And when it comes to the Braves, I'm going to be willing to lay up to a minus 130 on the money line. I did set them at a minus 131 for Martin Perez. I do think that you're doing for a little bit of regression with him, but still, he's been able to do a nice job keeping things out in front of him. About 1 home run allowed per 9 innings. He is still giving up 3 walks per 9, pitches quite a bit of contact, 7.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he benefits from the fact that out of 30 MLB teams, the Padres are currently 30th in the big leagues in terms of run creation. Now, you've actually had Fernando Tatis Jr. do a nice job moving the line, getting on base, right around about a 350 on base, but 2 home runs as far this season, and you look at the lineup for this team, just not a lot of power here as they're banking on Rodolfo Duran at the catcher spot, who's hitting a $127 this year. Sungmin Son has been hitting like the Mendoza line of 200. Gavin Sheets, Jackson Merrill, Xander Bogaerts, only between about a 215 to a 230. Sheets is up to 12 home runs, but man, need a bit more there. Manny Machado does have the 14 home runs, but he's hitting below 200 as well. And for the Atlanta Braves, second in the big leagues in terms of road run creation with about 5.4 runs per game. Michael Ayers, 14 bombs, hitting above 300. You've got Dom Smith, who continues to hit at 280, along with Ozzy, Albies. You get Drake Baldwin back, over a 275 average, 14 home runs. Matt Olson, 20 bombs. Like 1 through 9 for this team is solid. They've already got a home run out of Rowdy Tellez, so that's amazing. And for both of these teams, they've been very good with their bullpens. Both of these teams in the top 5 in terms of bullpenning are in the Atlanta Braves. They are numero uno. The Dylans, Dylan Lee, Dylan Dada, but able to give you sub 3 ERA. Robert Suarez, the former Padre, Racio Iglesias have all been rock solid. And Mason Miller obviously has been the best closer in all of baseball, but Yuki Matsui has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA for the Padres. Jason Adams has been a little bit shaky, up to about a 250 ERA, but Andre Morejon, after a shaky start to the season, he's been solid. Wandy Peralta has been able to give you a sub 2 ERA, but now you're banking on JP Sears, so I've never really been high on personally. This was supposed to be Randy Vasquez to start with. I gave JP Sears a little bit of a downgrade, and this is going to be his first start of the season. Last season when he was with the San Diego Padres, he was actually worse than he was with the Athletics. Like, he was supposed to get up a 5.47 ERA, 2.6 home runs, 2.6 walks per 9 innings as a member of the San Diego Padres. You take a look at the minor league rehab starts as far this season. Now, this was with El Paso for 14 starts, 7.92 ERA, and he was giving up about 4 walks per 9 innings. I don't really think that you can expect anything great here, so I'm going to be in on the over, so I tell it at 8.2, and for the Braves, I'm willing to lay up to minus 130 on the money line, 9-11, 9-12 on the card. It is the Cleveland Guardians, and they're going to be on the road against the Chicago White Sox as Eric Fetty is on the bump for the White Sox, and Tanner Bybee goes for Cleveland. Cleveland does find themselves as a favorite here of any between minus 118 to a minus 125. Even money to plus 105 is the number on the White Sox. 8.5 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. And I set the Guardians here at a minus 107. So when we get the timelines, we should be able to get closer to plus 108, plus 110. On the White Sox, that will reel me in on their money line. And when it comes to Eric Fetty, I really don't have a lot of faith in him whatsoever. But when it comes to the Cleveland Guardians lineup, I don't have a lot of faith in them either. So it's a good old situation of something's got to give for Fetty. He's lucky to have a 4.46 ERA, 5.59 fielding dependent, 1.8 home runs, 3.4 walks per 9 innings, not getting any whiffs whatsoever. Only about 6.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. Strikeout numbers have really not been going upward. 4 strikeouts or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts, and they've utilized an opener for him quite a bit in the past. So if you do see some sort of a player like a Grant Taylor, who's been pretty solid out of the bullpen, he's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. You've been able to get some okay production out of these guys like Sean Newcomb. They've been able to do a solid job in terms of holding down the 4. White Sox still a bottom 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA because you have Jordan Hicks, who's posting up an ERA above a 5. Sir Anthony Dominguez is your closer. Jordan Leisure is leisurely giving up a lot of runs, but I mean, they've been relatively okay there, which is a big reason why I'm in on the under. So I tell it an 8.2, mainly because you look at this Cleveland Guardians lineup, and there was not a single guy in the starting lineup with a double-figure amount of homers this season because you got Jose Ramirez, who's currently dealing with injury, Chase Lauder, Angel Martinez. You just go down the list, and it's not great. Kyle Manzardo, 9 home runs, and he's hitting like a 235. I will say Travis Bazzana, Brian Roque are both give you a on-base percentage that's above a 340, and they're both hitting about a 275. But then you've got so many of these other schlubs, like Stephen Kwan. I don't know what happened to him, but he, along with Khalil Watson, the young outfielder, Patrick Bailey, Reese Hoskins, so many guys that are hitting at 215 or lower. You got nobody that's moving the line for this team, and the White Sox are the opposite. They leave something to be desired with their pitching, but Miguel Vargas, 16 home runs, only about a 236 average, but the on-base percentage, that's more than they were about a 340 to a 350. Colson Montgomery, again, 218 average, but he's been able to supply 20 home runs. Randall Grichuk has 8 home runs and like less than 110 at-bats. He's been solid. Chase Meadroth has given you about a 350 on-base. Bryson Montgomery has been able to move line. Now, Lionel Acuna, Edgar Quijero, some of these guys at the bottom lineup need a little bit more, but Sam Antonassi has been able to give you over a 360 on-base, and when it comes to Tanner Bybee, he throughout his career has just been a much better pitcher when he has been at home rather than away from home. Last 2 seasons, his ERA does balloon by over a 1.5 when he is away from home rather than at home. And for Tanner Bybee, I do think that he's going to be able to give you a functional okay start here. A 4.03 ERA, he is giving up 1.6 home runs, 2.8 walks per 9 innings, but other than just a complete blow-up start against the Washington Nationals, he's been better recently. He has now given up a grand total of 8 earned runs over the course of his last 4 starts. So I do think that that'll be just enough to keep you under, especially with the Guardians being a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA over the last, shall we say, 2 months since May 1st. You've got Eric Sabrowski now off the injury list. He's been able to give you sub 350 ERA. Kate Smith, he blew that game a few days ago, but still sub 350 ERA out of him. Sean Armstrong, Tim Aaron, these are guys give you sub 350 ERA, and Hunter Gaddis moving into form. So I do like the under of 8.5. I did set my total here at an 8.4, and with the Chicago White Sox at a plus 108 or better, I do like their money line. 9.13, 9.14 on the card. It's the Orioles, and they're going to be on the road facing off against the LA Angels as Trey Gibson is on the bump for the Orioles and Jose Soriano is on the bump for the Halos. And the Halos do find themselves as a mid-tier favorite here, as with the Angels, you're going to be laying with them anywhere in that neighborhood of about a minus 125 to a minus 130, seeing as good as minus 116 as well. Between a plus 104 to minus 102 is that number on Baltimore. 9.5 is the total, unders minus 115, and the overs minus 105. Set my total here at an 8.7. I do like the under for Trey Gibson. He was able to get a little bit more swing and miss in his last start because to start the season he was getting absolutely none of that. You look at his numbers at AAA Norfolk this season, he was getting in that neighborhood about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's still rough. 5.81 ERA, 1.4 home runs, 5.8 walks per 9 innings. But you also have an Angels lineup that, for one, they are currently without Mike Trout, and for two, they have not been the same team at home rather than away from home. They're averaging darn near 5.1 runs per game away from home. That's a top 7 mark in all baseball. 3.9 runs per game at home. And Zach Neto, well, he's been a neato man. He's been able to give you 13 plus home runs, and the on-base percentage is right around about a 330, but not a lot of batting average. You've been able to get a double-figure amount of homers out of Joe Adell, setting fire to the rain, but again, not necessarily giving you great on-base. Ori Solaris back, but he's not reliable in terms of moving line. I do think that some of these guys like a Donovan Walton, Nick Madrigal, who've actually been quite solid, Jose Siri, going to see a little bit of regression out of those guys. Flip side for the Baltimore Orioles, this has been a lineup that has been quite the same when they have been away from home rather than at home. For the Orioles, they are averaging well over 5 runs per game at home this far this season, closer to about 4.4 runs per game away from home, and Gunnar Henderson up to 16 home runs, less than a 285 on base. Samuel Basayo and Kobe Mayo up to 10 home runs. Mayo just needs to give you a little bit more average. He, Tyler O'Neill, the once again injured Jackson Holiday, only below a 225 for the team. Colton Cowser is starting to round into form a little bit, but he's been a bit of an issue as well. But Pete Alonso, he's back up to an on-base percentage above a 330, 18 home runs. Taylor Ward, the former Angel, only 5 home runs this season after he had 30 a season ago, but has been able to give you 393 on base. Do have a pair of bullpens that have been all sorts of rough for this team. As for the Baltimore Orioles, since coming off the injury list, Ryan Helsley just has not been good for this team. Meanwhile, Keegan Aiken, Andrew Kittredge, they both have over a 5 ERA, but you've got Uncle Rico Garcia along with Yanier Cano. Don't you know these guys are giving you a sub 325 ERA? And for Jose Soriano, he has been really solid for the Angels, and they're going to need him to be able to lend length here because Jay Silseth, sub 3 ERA, Sam Bachman, Sammy Natera have been okay, but Brent Suter over a 4 ERA. Ryan Zephyrion is a complete disaster. Like, they've thrown Nick Sandlin and Alec Manoah out of that bullpen. Kirby Yates is rounding into form a little bit, but still have all sorts of issues there. And for Mr. Soriano, he has been the, shall we say, most reliable guy for the team at this point. 303 ERA, 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up less than 1 home run per 9. The walks are an issue. He is giving up about 4.5 walks per 9 innings, but do think that that's enough to be able to keep you under and get the job done. Set the Angels here at a minus 145, like their money line, and I do like the under, so I tell it at 8.7. 915, 916 on the card. It's the Rays. They're going to be playing those to the Royals, as Noah Cameron is on the bump for the Royals, and Griffin Jacks is getting all jacked up for this one. And with the Royals, you're going to be getting them at a plus money underdog price of between plus 118 to a plus 125, minus 145 to a minus 155 on the Rays. 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is minus 105 to a minus 110, and I set the Rays here at a minus 141, so at minus 138, I'm going to be willing to take a nibble on the money line. I actually like the way that Noah Cameron has been throwing this far this season. He's really not giving up too much of the deep ball. 420 ERA isn't necessarily great, but 342 fielding dependent. 1 home run, 2.3 walks per 9 innings. He's getting about 8.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, but that said, he's backed up by a bullpen that's not been very good thus far this season. For the Royals, they're a bottom 7 team in terms of bullpen ERA. You just have had Lucas Hursuch go down the toilet bowl with over a 5 ERA this season. Matt Strahm over a 4 ERA. Alex Lang seems to be doing a little bit better. He and John Schreiber have both been able to supply a sub 4 ERA, which for this team is actually pretty good. But Nick Mears is on the injury list. Carlos Aceves is out with injury. And for the Royals, you're starting to get more out of Jack Caglione. Went deep once again yesterday. He's up to, I believe, now 13 home runs, and sitting darn near at 275 or so. So you do like to be able to see that. And the Lane train, Lane Thomas is up to about a 350 on base along Caglione. Nick Lofton is up to about a 340 on base as well. Salvador Perez, 10 home runs, but 248 on base. You just need a little bit more there. You did have Bobby Witt Jr. out of the lineup as well, and that's a big issue for this Kansas City Royals team. And when it comes to some of these other mix and match guys like Isaac Collins and company, don't know what you're going to be able to get there. Meanwhile, for the Tampa Bay Rays, you got a big 3 for this team. Jonathan Aranda, Yandy Diaz, and Junior Caminero. All these guys give you at least a 370 on base. All these guys at least 12 home runs this far this season. Then Johnny DeLuca along Chandler Simpson are in between about a 262, 270. Richie Palacios is up to a 340 on base. Hunter Fiducia along Nick Fortes. They're doing a solid job at the catcher spot for the Rays. It has been a bullpen that they themselves have been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of ERA. Brian Baker and Kevin Kelly, though, both of these guys have been able to give you an ERA that is below a 3, and Cam Bouger has been a really nice find for this team. Casey Lugumina was struggling towards the beginning part of the season with the Seattle Mariners, but ever since getting to the Rays, sub 3 ERA, so that's been relatively solid. You need a little bit more out of Cole Sulzer, Garrett Clevenger. These guys have not necessarily been amazing, to say the least. And for Griffin Jacks, you've got some very big splits for him between being a starter and coming out of the bullpen. When he was coming out of the bullpen this year, he had an ERA of an 8, and he was giving up 3 home runs per 9 innings. Now, I don't think that he's quite as bad as that. I don't think that he's quite as good as the numbers would indicate as a starter. As a starter, 270 ERA. He has been still giving up, though, about like 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. The swing and miss stuff was actually better coming out of the bullpen, but still, I do think that you're somewhere between A and B with him, so it's a very interesting circumstance circumstance with a Royals team that's averaging 3.6 runs per game away from home. Dead last in all baseball, but they do seem to be rounding into a little bit of better form, like the over. Somebody told 7.9. And with the Royals, I set them at a plus 141, so minus 140 or better. I'm in on their Rays money line. 917, 918 on the card. The Yankees are going to be on the road facing off against the Tigers as Derek Skubal is on the bump for the Tigres and Ryan Weathers. Hope so. Weathers the storm for the Yankees. 7 to 7.5 is the total on the 7.5. Unders minus 120. The overs even on the 7. Overs minus 115. Unders minus 105. Minus 140 to minus 150 is that number on Detroit. And between plus 119 to a plus 127 is that number on the Yankees. And I'm willing to lay with the Tigers. I did set them at a minus 149. And with Drake Skubal, he hasn't necessarily looked amazing since coming off the injury list, but I knew he had bodies in his arm, and he was able to come back from that relatively solidly. And the swing and miss stuff does seem to be coming back to him. And his last start against the White Sox, 8 punch-outs and 5 2/3 innings, has given up 3 home runs since coming off the injury list, and that is something to be concerned with. I do like the 7.5 to the under. I semi-told 7.4, and I'm mostly seeing 7.5 out there. And for the Detroit Tigers, it does appear as though that bullpen is starting to round into a little bit of better form. Bull Vestas has not been good thus far this season, but you've been able to get a little bit more out of someone like a Tyler Holtnoose back down below a 4 ERA. Birch Smith being on the injury list certainly hurt this team a little bit, but I like what I'm seeing out of Kyle Finnegan as well, and I do think that Skubal is going to look a little bit more like himself. Now for the Yankees, ever since Aaron Judge went out in the lineup, they've been averaging about 4.9 runs per game here in the month of June, with Ben Rice being able to really carry the mail for the team, a 380 on base, and he's up to 22 home runs. They're starting to give Yasan Dominguez some more at-bats. I think that with a full sample size, he's going to be solid. Spencer Jones, I'm still a little bit jury's out on him, but Anthony Volpe is giving you 380 on base. Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt over a 350 on base. Flip side for the Tigers, they've got Gleyber Torres once again on the shelf, but Dylan Dingler, 17 plus home runs. He's hitting about a 270. Kevin McGonigal, Riley Green, these guys give you over a 380 on base. Now, the bottom of the lineup with these guys like Zach McKinstry, Jahmai Jones, Matt Vierling, man, I have a lot of guys hitting at 215 or lower whenever Jake Rogers is out there, man. It is not good to say the least, but for Ryan Weathers, he has really had a rough go of it recently as well. He's just giving up a lot of hard contact. He's giving up about 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. I do think that he's going to be able to round into a little bit of better form. It is a Tigers team that's in the bottom 7 in the big leagues in terms of total run creation, and for Ryan Weathers, it's just been a really bad stretch for him. He has given up 5 plus runs in 3 of his last 4 starts. Last start against the White Sox was better, 1 run allowed in 6 1/3 innings, and he's still getting about 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, so interesting scenario here. I'm willing to lay up to minus 148 on the Tigers on the money line, and did make my total a 7.4, so on the 7.5, I like the under. 919, 920 on the card. It's the Astros. They're going to be on the road. They're facing off against the Blue Jays as Mike Burrows goes for the Astros and Trey Savage for the Blue Jays. Blue Jays between minus 154 to minus 165 favorites, and between plus 130 to plus 138 is that number on Houston. 8.5 is the total. The over and the under are both at minus 110, and I like the under here. I did set my total at an 8.1. I know that Trey Savage had a little bit of a shaky start to the season, but I do think that he's going to be able to round in a form, and the big thing for Trey Savage is that he's still doing a nice job in terms of not allowing the hard contact. The swing and miss stuff maybe isn't like impeccable or anything like that right now, but it's still relatively solid as well for Savage. 8.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, 4.1 walks per 9. That's a little bit of an issue, but still only 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Has given up 3 plus runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts, and this has just been a series where we've had 100 million billion men left on base. It's been absolutely insane what we've been seeing there. You know what you're able to expect out of Yordan Alvarez along with Christian Walker for this Astros team. Walker has been hitting about a 242, 245, 18 plus home runs, and then Yordan Alvarez has been one of the best hitters in all baseball. He's up to 25 home runs, and his on-base percentage is well above a 400. Jeremy Pena as well. He's been able to move the line for this team. He's over a 345 on base. Not necessarily give you a ton of power, but then you've got the likes of Zach Cole, Zach DeZenzo, Bryce Matthews, Cam Smith at the bottom of the lineup, Jake Myers. All these guys that are outfielders are just not hitting for the team, and the Blue Jays are just inventing ways to be able to leave men on base. This is a team that has left over 25 men on base here in this series. It's just absolutely insane what we're seeing there. Andres Gimenez at the bottom of the fold, only about a 275 on base. Now, I will say this for the Blue Jays. One of the best teams in terms of not striking out. They're a top 3 team in terms of fewest strikeouts on a per at-bat basis. George Springer seems to be rounding in form, and there's plenty of guys that are moving the line for the team. Ernie Clement, Jesus Sanchez, Yohendrick Pinago, Vlad Guerrero Jr. These are all guys hitting at least a 275 for the team, so you've been able to have a lot of positivity there, but for Flagler Jr., only 4 home runs this season. Kazuma Okamoto, 17 home runs. He's like the lone guy in the roster who's been able to give you a double-figure amount of bombs as far as the season. And for the Blue Jays, they did have to burn through a lot of that bullpen yesterday because Shane Bieber only offered 3 2/3 innings of length, and you've got quite a few guys like Mason Flaherty, Tommy Nance, Jeff Hoffman, Uriel Rodriguez. These guys have been supplying over a 3.85 ERA. Now for the Houston Astros, they too have been a bottom 7 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Ever since Josh Hader has come back, it's been better as he and Luke Van Way have been able to give you a sub 2 ERA. Stephen Okert, they had to use him up yesterday, but he's been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. So I'm liking a little bit more of them. Brian King, he's been relatively solid in this bullpen as well, but I do think that in this circumstance, you're just going to have a guy in Mike Burrows that just gets absolutely crushed here. For Mike Burrows, it's been a rough start to the season for him, and I just don't think that it's going to be getting any better. Right now, a 5.79 ERA, fielding dependent right around about 5.63, 2 home runs, 3.4 walks allowed per 9 innings. So I think that the Blue Jays are able to get it done, and I think that they're able to get it done in convincing fashion. I was willing to take almost any sort of a plus number with regards to that run line of the Blue Jays. I'm right now seeing that right around about a plus 135, plus 140, and I was personally willing to take a plus 110 or better. So I'm going to be in on the under, semi-total at 8.1, and I'm taking the Blue Jays here, laying a run and a half on that run line. 921, 922 on the card. The Walker Texas Rangers are on the road against the Miami Marlins. Eri Perez is on the bump for the Marlins, and Jacob deGrom is on the bump for the Rangers. Rangers are minus 125 favorites, plus 105 on the Miami Marlins, and 7.5 is the total. Over it's minus 115, the under is minus 105, and I do like the over here. I did set my total at a 7.7 for Eri Perez. He is just coming off the injury list and has always been significantly better when he's been at home rather than away from home. Throughout his career, he's got an ERA that's more than 2 full points better when he's at home rather than away from home, but you have to wonder how he's going to look in his first start, since this is going to be his first time out there since May 27th, and he just has not had a good run of things thus far this season, and it was a little bit more of a lower body injury, so the velocity shouldn't be seeing too much of a downtick, but still, 4.60 ERA, 4.66 fielding dependent, the 10.3 strikeouts per 9 innings are great, but 1.6 home runs, 4 walks allowed per 9 innings thus far this season, so I have a lot of trepidation there, and then you got a guy on the flip side in Jacob deGrom, who's surprisingly given up a lot of hard contact thus far this season, coming off of a rough start, giving up 6 runs to the San Diego Padres, who have been dead last in terms of run creation all season long, 3.59 ERA, 3.74 fielding dependent. He again, 10.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 1.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. I do think that you're going to get enough scoring for the over. I did set my total at 7.7, and I do lean towards the Texas Rangers here. I know that the offense still has not been great. They've been a bottom 6 team in all of baseball in terms of run creation, but you'll look at Arlington, it just really suppresses offense, 3.7 runs per game at home compared to about 4.3 runs per game away from home. Jock Peterson has been doing a solid job in terms of move line. He's got an on-base percentage that's right around about a 335. Wyatt Langford has hit a few home runs, and he's been looking solid since coming off the injury list. Josh Young is hitting at 300. Ezekiel Duran, Brandon Nimmo, they're in their neighborhood about a 265 now. Kicking the tires on Jared Kelenic. I don't know how that's going to be going, but I mean, even though there's not a ton of power here outside, Jake Berger is giving you a double-figure amount of homers. They're finding a way on base, and for the Miami Marlins, this is a team that's sort of dinking and dunking as well. They're a bottom 8 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. You need more of some of these bottom guys like Kyle Stowers, Roberto Hernandez, Connor Norby, Owen Casey. These are guys hitting a 235 or lower, and at the top of the lineup, Jacob Murphy is hitting a 200. Swipes a lot of bags, but I mean, a little bit more there. That said, you've been able to have quite a bit of production out of Liam Hicks, who's been able to give you 14-plus home runs, and Xavier Edwards, it's about a 295 out of Lopez, continues at above 300. I will say, for both of these teams, the bullpens have been in the top 8 in terms of ERA. Jacob Junis, Jacob Latz for the Rangers have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Tyler Alexander has been very rock solid. Still deal with a few injuries, and Cole Winn, after he had a sub-2 ERA last season, just as not been himself this season. Meanwhile, for the Marlins, Calvin Fauché has been able to round to form. He, Michael Peterson, John King, these guys have been able to give you a sub-375 ERA. They had to trot out their Lake Bakar as a little bit of a longer guy. He should be back in a bit more of a normal role in the bullpen now that you've got Eri Perez back in the rotation. He's been able to give you about a 3 ERA, so that helps out a little bit, but you also have to have some trepidation here with Pete Fairbanks coming out of that bullpen in the closer's role as well. So I do think that for the Rangers, Jacob deGrom just gives you a little bit of a better start, and both of these guys being prone to hard contact, I think that leads to the over, so I do like the over, so my total 7.7, and for the Rangers, set them at a minus 135, want to lay that money line. 923, 924 on the card. The Red Sox are on the road against the Rockies, as Kyle Freeland is on the bump for the Rockies, and Mr. Ranger Suarez is on the bump for the Red Sox, and the Red Sox do find themselves as good size favorites here, minus 164 to minus 181. Meanwhile, between plus 138 to plus 150 is that number on Colorado. 10.5 to 11 is your total on the 11. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105 on the 10.5. Over is minus 120 to a minus 130. The under is between even and plus 110. And I'm going to be willing to take the over. It's up by total 11.1. Not because of Ranger Suarez. Ranger Suarez has been very good thus far this season. How about a 2.93 ERA? A fielding dependent more around about a 2.84. Half home run allowed per 9 innings. Now, I know that he spent much of his career out there with the Philadelphia Phillies, but he's always had a career ERA that's been better away from home rather than at home as well. Now, Coors Field is just a completely different animal in general, but in a career 3 ERA when he's been away from home compared to a 3.68 at home, and he's gone to Coors Field a few times, and obviously it's a ballpark that is very, very unforgiving to say the least, and he's had a little bit of jacked up numbers there, but still, I do think that he's going to be able to go out there, do a relatively solid job, and even with his numbers being a little bit jacked up over there at Coors Field, has still been able to get a little bit of swing and miss throughout his career in a 3.20 ERA. Meanwhile, when it comes to what you're able to get out of Kyle Freeland, he's just been giving up a lot of runs this far this season. Had a better start last time out against Pittsburgh Pirates, but a 7.36 ERA, 1.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings, just all sorts of rough, and you've got a Red Sox team that is hovering right around about 500 away from home, 12 and 25 at home, about 4.4 runs per game when they've been on the road, 3.4 runs per game at home, some of the most wackadoo home and road splits in all of baseball, and for the Red Sox, you do have guys that are moving the line. Wilson Contreras has been your main man, over a 370 on base, 16 home runs, and Jarren Duran has 10 home runs since May 1st, but he's still hitting for less than a 275 on base, so you need a little bit more there. But like stuff, Weiler Abreu, Masataka Yoshida, Ceddanne Rafaela, they've been able to give you between about a 325 to a 345 on base. Mickey Gasper just below that, he's been okay as well. And then for the Rockies, they are getting Mickey Boniek back. That's part of the reason why I do like the over. 12 home runs at about 150 at bats prior to yesterday, coming off the injury list, hitting at 285. Hunter Goodman has been a good man, 21 home runs. Not necessarily the world's greatest on base, but he gives you some pop. TJ Romfield is hitting about a 275 along Tristan Freeman, and for Romfield, he's been able to supply 12 home runs. Jake McCarthy is moving line. Need a little bit more towards the bottom of the fold. These guys like Brenton Doyle, Ezekiel Tovar, Edouard Julien are hitting a 230 or lower, but the biggest issue that you do have to have with the Rockies is the pitching in general. I laid it out with Kyle Freeland, but then you've got Juan Mejia's posting up an ERA that's currently well above a 5 in the bullpen. Jay Nils up to a 5 ERA in the bullpen. They're getting Jimmy Harrigan, Victor Vodnik off the injury list, but Vodnik has been absolutely terrible. Harrigan over a 4.40 ERA, and for the Boston Red Sox, I recognize their oldest Chapman pooped the bed in the game on Monday, but still has been one of the better closers in all baseball. Garrett Woodlock has given you a sub-3 ERA after a rough start to the season. Greg Weissert has been able to round into form as well, so do think that the Red Sox do go out there, get the job done. I did set my money line price at a minus 177. In terms of laying a run half, I was willing to go up to a minus 118 here. Right now with the Red Sox, I'm finding that more around about a minus 105 to a minus 115, so want to lay a run half on that run line with the Red Sox, and I'm going to be in on the over as well, so by total 11.1, 925, 926 on the card. The Mariners are on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Braxton Ashcraft hopes to not be a load of Ashcraft for Pittsburgh, and Brian Wu says woohoo to another start. 7.5 is the total, over and under both a minus 110. For Pittsburgh, they're between minus 110 to a minus 118. Between minus 102 to minus 105 is that number on the Seattle Mariners, and with the Mariners, I did set them here at a plus 140, so I'm going to be willing to lay it here with the Pittsburgh Pirates. For Braxton Ashcraft, he has been truly remarkable for this Pirates team this far this season. He's gone out there, posted up an ERA that's right around about a 3.18 with a 3.03 fielding dependent, 0.8 home runs, 2.2 walks per 9 innings, and about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. And it's a Mariners team that is 22nd in the league in terms of overall scoring. Do I think that Cal Raleigh is going to round into a little bit of better form? Yes, but he has been miserable thus far this season. J.P. Crawford, 350 on base, double-figure amount of homers, but still not necessarily hitting for a lot of average. They've been dealing with a few injuries. Tom Canzone has had to step up in a big way, and he has been able to double-figure amount of homers, about a 350 on base, but Luke Raley has been in and out of the lineup, should be good to go in this game, but something you want to note there, Josh Naylor is not giving you home run power like he has in the past. Now, Julio Rodriguez, double-figure amount of homers, hitting for about a 250, but again, not a lot of on-base there. Meanwhile, for the Pittsburgh Pirates, you are still dealing with the injury to Oneil Cruz, but you've had Nick Gonzalez be able to hit darn near 300, Brian Reynolds, Spencer Horwitz above a 385 on base. Obviously, Connor Griffin being in and out of the lineup has been hurting this team as well, but Eddie Rodriguez at the catcher spot has been solid. Ryan O'Hearn, double-figure amount of of homers, 330 on base, and then Brandon Lowe has been able to get loud with 17 plus home runs. He's hitting about a 250. For the Mariners, they're dealing with a lot of injuries with their bullpen as well. You've had Matt Brash, Cooper Criswell, who have both been able to supply a sub 330 ERA in this bullpen deal with ailment. Now, I will say Jose Ferreira has been solid along Gabe Spire. These guys have been able to give you a sub 3 ERA, and they've needed it because Andres Munoz, who's been reliable in the past in this bullpen, he's posting up an ERA above a 5. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's been a bullpen that's been all sorts of shaky as well. Justin Lawrence was so bad that they just had to DFA him. You've had Dennis Santana supplying an ERA above a 4. You've had you don't mess with the Yohan Ramirez, certainly getting messed with, but I do think that Ashcraft and the like that he's able to lend is going to be able to help you out with that quite a bit. And then on the flip side, for Brian Wu, he's pitched much better than what the ERA would indicate. Right now for Brian Wu, 3.94 ERA, but a 3.08 fielding dependent, 0.8 home runs, 1.6 walks per 9 innings, but that jumps up to a 5.93 with his ERA away from home. He has been very much a merchant hound at home thus far this season, and now you go up against Pirates team that is averaging about 5.4 runs per game at home, entering in the series number 1 in all of baseball. So I do think that the Pirates get the job done. I like them on the money line, so my price at a minus 140, and with regards to total, I set mine at a 7.8, so right now seeing the 7.5, I'm in on the over. 927, 928 on the card. It's the Minnesota Twins. They're going to be playing us the LA Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani is on the bump for the Dodgers, and Joe Ryan is on the bump for the Twins. Total on this game, it is 7.5. Over is minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is minus 105 to a minus 110. With the Dodgers, they are between minus 160 to minus 165 favorites. Plus 135 to a plus 138 is that number on the Twins. They were initially having Connor Prelip on the mound, so I think we're probably going to be able to get a little bit more plus value here. Plus 150 or better, I'm going to be in on the Minnesota Twins, and if worse comes to worse, if I'm able to find them getting a run and a half at something like a minus 110 or something like that, I would be willing to lay that as well, because right now we are doing this because a lot of people thought that Joe Ryan was going to be going on Tuesday. I thought so as well, so a little bit of mystery there. I could only go up to a minus 148 here with the Dodgers, so overnight numbers will be determining that. I'm going to be in on the over, though. I did set my total at 7.6 for Shohei Ohtani. He has been absolutely remarkable on the mound thus far this season. He is still posting up an ERA of a 147, 265 field depends, 0.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings, about 9 strikeouts per 9, and then you've got a Minnesota Twins lineup that has been able to supply the boom. They're averaging about 4.9 runs per game this season. That is a top 6 mark in all of baseball, and when it comes to this Twins lineup, Byron Buxton, 23 plus home runs this far this season. He has been absolutely sensational. But now you're getting a double-figure amount of homers out of Brooks Lee. Josh Bell, since the beginning of the month of June, he's been able to above a 275 after a miserable start to the season. It feels like we saw this last year with the Washington Nationals with him as well. Lucas Shields now hitting above a 250. Royce Lewis, since coming back from the minor league level, he's been solid. And for the LA Dodgers, right now they're leading the league in terms of run creation away from home with about 5.9 runs per game. Shohei Ohtani, sometimes he hits, sometimes he doesn't when he's on the mound, but he's up to 16 plus home runs, 420 on base, and now Freddie Freeman, double-figure amount of homers. He's hitting at 275. Tommy Edman has been amazing since coming off the injury list, and then Max Muncy, along with Andy Paz, both of these guys hitting about a 265. Both of these guys 15 plus home runs. You got a Twins bullpen, by the way, that is just absolutely awful. So even if you do get a good start here out of Joe Ryan, and Joe Ryan has been just absolutely incredible with this team. Do want to be noting that he's been dealing with a bit of an injury, but still 2.99 ERA. He has been, in terms of home runs on a per 9 inning basis, giving up 0.8, less than 2 walks per 9, while getting over 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's backed up by a bullpen where I don't think that there's a single guy on the roster other than Yonder Gomez that might be giving you a sub 350 ERA. Anthony Banda, Taylor Rogers, Andrew Morris, Travis Adams, Cody Funderburk, all these guys are just terrible right now. For the LA Dodgers, you have seen Jack Dreyer get his ERA get jacked up a little bit more. He's been posting up more around about a 350 ERA. Alex Vesia has been solid, but Blake Trine has been a little bit shaky for this team as well, and Tanner Scott has been seeing a little bit of regression here recently, but I do think that that's going to improve moving forward. So if we can get the 7.5 total, I'm going to be on the over. And like I said, with the Dodgers, I'm willing to lay up to a minus 148 with that money line. If it goes to plus 150 plus with the Twins, I'll be looking there. And then we wrap things up with 929, 930. The Athletics are going to be on the road against the Giants. Tyler Mahle is on the bump for the Giants, and Gage Jump is on the bump for the Athletics. And the Athletics do find themselves anywhere between minus 120 to minus 130, plus 102 to plus 110 is that number on San Francisco. 7.5 to 8 is the total on the 8, over and under both at minus 110. On the 7.5, over is minus 115 to minus 120, under is between even to minus 105, and I'm going to be willing to take the Giants here. I did set them at a plus 103 for the Giants overall for the season. They have been one of the most, shall we say, sickening offenses in all baseball. It is a Giants group that is 4th worst in the big leagues in terms of run creation at home with about 3.8 runs per game, overall 23rd with 4.1 runs per game, but closer to 4.7 runs per game here in the month of June. We have seen Rafael Devers and Willie Adames both reach a double-figure amount of homers. Now, Devers still right around about 300 on base. Adames more around about at 280 or so with regards to the on base, but you do have guys that are moving the line. Bryce Eldridge, Casey Schmidt, Luis Arias, Jungle Lee. These are all guys hitting at least a 290 for the team, and Schmidt is up to 16 home runs. Matt Chapman has been a little bit better recently. Daniel Susic at the catcher spot. He's finding a way on, and for the Athletics, this has been a top 12 team in terms of run creation as well. Shea Langeliers, Nick Kurtz, 19 home runs apiece. Langeliers, well, he has banged for about a 340 on base. Kurtz well above a 430 on base. One of the best at drawing walks in all of baseball. Zach Galoff, 11 home runs at about 210 at bats. He's hitting at 285. Jacob Wilson is hitting at 285. Henry Bolte, not a lot of power, but he's been able to 300 as well. The big thing with the Athletics, though, is that it's really hard to trust in this bullpen right now. They are currently in the bottom 3 in all of baseball in terms of bullpen areas. You have seen a lot of these guys like a Luis Medina, Hogan Harris that were so reliable towards the beginning part of the season really start to toil up on this team. Jack Perkins was a little bit more of a long guy. They're not needing to trot him out there as a starter, and Scott Barlow has seen his ERA go above 6. Mark Leiter Jr., there's just absolutely no having faith in him whatsoever. And then on the other end, it's not like the Giants are amazing with their bullpen. They're more around about 16th or 17th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen area, and they are dealing with Keaton Wynn right now, dealing with a little bit of ailment. And Tyler Mully, he has been in and out with regards to the rotation a little bit more, and he's right now posting up an ERA that's right around about a 6.04. He's been given up in terms of home runs at a per 9 innings basis, right around about 1.7, 1.8. So it's been relatively rough on him, but that said, I do think that he's going to be backed up relatively well with a guy like a Matt Gage who's able to give you a 4 ERA. You've had Caleb Killian shrink his ERA to about a 3. JT Brubaker has been relatively solid, and I like what I've seen out of Santa Hentages as well. So do you think that you're going to get a higher scoring game? Because for Gage jump this far, a 2.37 ERA in his 5 starts, he has been masterful. He's only giving up 0.7 home runs per 9 innings, but not getting a lot of swing and miss as well. 7.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. Think that there's a little bit of regression doing there, so semi-total at an 8.3. I do like the over, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot here on the Giants on the money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Wednesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Big thanks to Danny Vietti. He does such great work over at CBS Sports. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, whatever you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, LRCM, maybe it does not matter. So as per usual, please send these into the timeline. And the other way, that is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated from there. You're able to fire in whatever you like here on this podcast by that 5-star review. And I'm with you guys every single day, giving you picks and analysis on every game, every day. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.